stay beautiful, you have to care about your looks. Watch what you eat. Keep in great shape. And of course, choose the safest car in its class according to Europe's latest independent tests. The new Renault Megane. Stay beautiful.
Let someone else help you. If we receive your completed form by the 30th of September, we will calculate your tax for you. Oh.
Swap phone numbers with singles. Call us now on 0906 800 8000.
From only £10,295, with ABS power steering and 0% finance as standard on all new Renault Meganes, it doesn't take much to stay beautiful.
The worst job I ever done was a morgue, a mortuary, where it was a post-mortem suite. It was in London, and they had 12 stainless steel beds where they do post-mortems, and one stainless steel bed in what they call a dirty room. This is where bodies that they don't know what they might be infected with, where they do a post-mortem on it. I was asked if I could go and do a risk and hazard assessment for this mortuary, with a view to cleaning out the entire internal systems of this filter system. When they cut open the body, and let's say the body's been, I don't know whether it's a post-mortem, they dug it up, or it's been laying about, or whatever, it can be full of gases and bits and pieces, and when they cut it, it spurts out or whatever, and these vents suck it all away. So you've got a reasonably clear airway where the actual technicians or mortuary staff are working. So these are the pipes that went into the wall, up into a central support where it went into the ventilation system. I had to assume that the entry point into me would be skin contact, inhalation, ingestion, in my ears, up my nose, I don't know, any cuts. So I decided to wear a full biological suit because I was frightened of getting rips in my suit. And the first louver that I took down, I just touched it, and it fell, and it went straight through 2 suits and cut my leg. And I thought immediately, I'm dead now. I really thought that was it. I'm gonna get some sort of lurgy, and that was the end of me. And it was a real psychological pressure, because I found that the second day when I went there, I couldn't wear my wedding ring. That night when I went home to bed, I showered 4 times, and I kept waking up with my arms in the air because I was frightened to touch anything. To anything, I suppose I was talking about the wife. Yeah, it was a frightening job. When we finished cleaning the whole of this mortuary, we could smell onions, and we never really knew where these, what's this onion smell? And of course what we found out was that because we let the ventilation system off while we were working in it, there was pressure coming in from a kitchen that was next door. So the fumes from the kitchen were coming into the mortuary. And of course normally it would have gone the other way round, so God knows what's got into that kitchen. Right, this is an engineering company that make hydraulic presses. They had a heavy flood about 3 or 4 days ago, and sewers popped and rainwater overflows came through. Inside the firm they've got hydraulic pits and hydraulic reservoirs. They overflowed, and it caused oils to come all over the floor inside within the warehouse or factory. There was obviously 2 problems. There was a problem for the company that they couldn't continue with their work because everything was covered in oil. There was a trip hazard. There was an electric shock hazard because water got everywhere, and there was underground services. The biggest problem that had the biggest consequences, apart from the life-threatening bit with the electric shock, was the oil. Hydraulic oil's particularly toxic, and the company have made great efforts to stop that oil getting into the watercourse. What we're faced with now is we've got to remove the oil, separate the water from the oil where we can, and remove it from site. Okay, this is a 16-ton sludge gold part. We've altered it a little bit because, in actual fact, most times a sludge gut was just for sucking out drains. We do asbestos work and all sorts of peculiar chemicals, and quite often we can separate some of the debris from the water. Most interesting job is a block of flats, luxury block of flats with some of the country's most exclusive people living in it, some of the richest people about. In the basement of this block of flats was a electricity substation, and the owners of the building had no access to this room. They really didn't know what was in there. Anyway, there was an explosion and a fire that came from this room, and we got a call to go along and get rid of the smell of soot that was right through the building. And what I did is to get rid of any odour, you need to get rid of the source. So I had to go down to the room where this fire had occurred to see that it had been isolated and that, you know, there was no fumes still coming out of it, or soots. And when I went there, I just felt that the guys that was already in there cleaning up, they had no masks on, they had no boots on, they just, they weren't looking after themselves, so I know they wasn't going to look after me. And I felt that it was necessary to take a sample of the debris that was on the floor, because I just had a gut feeling that it was hazardous. Anyway, I took a grab sample and we motorcycle couriered it to a lab, and it came back that there was 2 forms of asbestos and the potential for PCBs, which is real dangerous stuff. So I said to the building manager, you know, there's a major problem here. But now we had to clean this area, decontaminate it from asbestos, and we had 1 day. Now, the usual methods of removing asbestos, just not suitable in this situation, because everything was covered in an oily, waxy soot, because it was a low oxygen fire, so that it really hadn't burnt the way you'd want it to have burnt. So what we decided to do was seal everything, all the high voltage electricity. We shrink wrapped it. We made it waterproof, and then we developed a foaming technique where we can foam walls and surfaces with a thixotropic chemical, like shaving foam, all over the wall, so it stayed there. And then we used the jetting machine and steamed everything and collected all the water and took it away. We worked a straight 16-hour shift and cleaned the whole area. And the only problem was I ended up with blisters on my feet. But it was good money, and it was a good job, good bonuses. We've got a car that's caught light in the lower ground car park. When cars burn, they give off the foams in the seats, the plastics, the petrols, the oils, so we end up with a very, very messy fire. Soot webs are where you've got tiny particles of soot. They're down to maybe 0.5 of a micron. They're electrostatically charged, one's positive, one's negative, and when they fly around in the air, they join together, the opposites attract, and they form chains. And the chains normally form in areas of lower air pressure, because that's where the heat goes and it pushes it towards these areas. And you'll see some peculiar, you know, when people have fires in their houses, they'll see all sorts of, look like cobwebs. They're not cobwebs at all, they're actually called smoke webs. And certain types of fire produce more. Some are protein fires where you've put a chicken in the pot and you cooked it, it disappears, the chicken's gone, it's burnt away, and you're left with smoke webs. I think all of the little bits that I've learned, it's all sort of stacked up and helped. Particularly, I mean, one of the things that I found of great use and significance was when I was working in the nuclear medicine department. I was preparing isotopes and things for various tests, and I was being taught about radiation, its hazards, and I was in a London Scottish TA regiment, and I went on a training course one day, and this education or intelligence officer was telling us how we would be able to survive and fight on the nuclear battlefield. And he was telling us that our uniforms were impregnated with something that was going to protect us, and it was absolute codswallop. So I waited till he finished, and then I asked him, I said, you know, it's absolute nonsense. And he said, well, you know, how did I know? And I told him, and he thought, oh, well, that was quite reasonable or bright that I hadn't brought it up in front of the men, because obviously that would have, I don't know, sort of made him look stupid and taken away their confidence. Well, today's one of those days I'm a suit. About 4 o'clock in the afternoon, somebody set off the sprinkler system and it flooded the whole venue.
And it was quite worrying because that night we had a party for 600, which was the royal film premiere of The Parent Trap. Walt Disney was the client. So a lot of stars, a big party.
Mia Farrow, Dennis Quaid, Natasha Richardson.
But I knew we had to be up and running for that night. There was no way you could find another venue for a party of that size and prestige.
The water was about a foot deep, and it had sorted out all the electricity, and all the walls become alive. And the floor, which was a parquet type flooring, wood slat flooring, that started to expand and it buckled. And the floor ended up, well, within an hour, it looked like the cruel sea. It was just all over the place.
Of course, they see these things every day, and I see them once in a lifetime. So for them, it's a day's work.
There was TV cameras outside, 20-ton generators. The band was on its way, the caterers were there. It was just impossible.
Looked at the problem and said, yes, we can get this place up and running by 11 o'clock that night. And that's when I saw people descended on us like people in spacesuits and big people and machinery. It was a fantastic operation. The managing director of Walt Disney came down during the afternoon, went mad, I think, when he saw, you know, what all his guests were coming to. But about 10 minutes before they arrived, which I think was about 10 to 11 at night, we were ready. And no one noticed. No one was even aware there had been a flood that day. The whole place had a carpet carpeted, the floor was dug up, it was drained, it was dried. No one was even aware. It was fantastic, and it was a great party.
Success, and we was nominated for an award for the most effective disaster recovery of '99, and you know, it's brought us in a lot of business. This is from the house fire, where the people washed the floor in petrol and it blew up. This is the kettle and the toaster that we said, you know, probably wasn't worth economical cleaning, but we're going to clean them and send them back, and, you know, while we're messing around today, so we thought we'd just do it and show you what goes on. One of the reasons we use Sid is because he's so old, and we use him for the more dangerous operations where he might get something that's incurable and might blow up, because no one will miss him. Get that glove off, Sid. You shouldn't have a glove on. You know they're dangerous.
Why doesn't all this water harm the electronics?
Well, electronics, they're made in their manufacturing process. They're made with water. The printed circuit boards, for example, go in a solder bath, and then they're floated on water. So, you know, these are not cotton mould. That's going to take us 2 days to dry this out. It's going to take us minutes to clean, but 2 days to dry it properly. And we put this into a chamber that we've got here. And then we go into a drying program. That's the most important, is the drying program. Okay, we're just taking out the water. You probably want to know whether it's going to pass or fail, because it's saturated with water. Push go. And it's failed. That's a surprise, isn't it? We've got 2 cans of chemicals here, which we've kept separated from the other side. These chemicals, potassium permanganate, if they get with one of the other chemicals that's over there, it will cause an explosion. It causes an exothermic reaction. One of the things we tend to find with our products is we get more information with them, and there's an awful lot of domestic products that they don't get the information that they should. I've got a product here that's it's just a straightforward cleaner, but when you start to look at the problems with it, you start to realise how dangerous many of the chemicals that we use indoors are. The one that I'm always concerned about is R43, which means it will give you cancer. This is our ozone room. What we use in here is a gas called ozone. It's manufactured by this piece of equipment that's on the wall. Ozone we use for deodorising smoke-damaged goods. We put furniture in there, clothing, things like that. Even cars. We've had a small car in there. This building we're approaching, it's Merchant Seaman's memorial to lost souls in the Second World War. It's a Portland stone with bronze plaques, and there's a huge garden over there. And last year we did it for the, we cleaned the stone and we re-bronzed all the plaques. All the boys really like that because the whole of the gardens, they're used by office workers in the summer months to eat their sandwiches. And I don't know, I think everybody was looking for a wife at the time. Well, Docklands, that was one of our big breaks. We'd shown some loss adjusters in London before the bombing, a system that we brought in from the United States. It's a shrink wrap system where we can shrink wrap a building. And one of the loss adjusters, Thomas Howe Group, they'd remembered it, and they were on site at the day of the bombing. And the Guardian newspaper had their roof blown off, and there was millions of pounds worth of printing equipment in there. And the loss adjuster said, can we shrink wrap the roof? So we went in there and we shrink wrapped the roof. And of course the roof was overlooked by some of the big buildings in Canary Wharf, and it was a good opportunity to write our phone number right across the roof. So we sprayed the roof with our phone numbers. And some executives from Commercial Union, CGU insurer, saw our phone number, saw the effects of what we did, and contacted us and said, who are you? What's it all about? What's this thing you've put across there? Because our shrink roof stayed there in actual fact for nearly 2 years, whereas other people had put scaffolding over the top, they put tarpaulins, and they would get blown off every other day. So they saw the benefit, and CGU made us, or CU then, gave us an opportunity to become first call within the M25 for any major disasters. And we did a few other buildings there. It was pretty well pumping out oils, waters, inks. So some of the printing firms there, their inks went into the water course, into subfloor voids. So we pumped that out and we dried buildings. We had a lot of glass. There was glass in a lot of carpets because of broken windows, and there was a lot of computer systems. We salvaged a lot of computer systems in there where it wasn't so much they was affected by blast, but where the windows went in, rains were driven into the computer suites, and what we did is we put those into cocoons and put in drying programs, or took the equipment out and salvaged it. So we saved insurers quite a lot of money there.
So what is it you're looking at there?
Sewage, raw sewage.
These men are awaiting trial for their part in the genocide in Rwanda that has left nearly 1 million men, women and children dead. Making sense of madness. True stories, Men in Pink. Wednesday, 10:55 on 4.
Michael and Layla leave the Caribbean sun and arrive in a bleak and grey England in 1958, seeking a new life. Sir Peter Hall directs the final passage next.
Have you had your Weetabix?
Find love on the phone. Call the Singles Network on 0906 800 8000.
All right.
Wow.
No, that one's mine, not yours.
Why?
Well, I peeled all the potatoes, I chipped them, you know, fried them, and nearly burnt myself.
Why?
It's all right, there's plenty there for you. That chip pan, it's scrubbed, you wouldn't know I'd used it.
What chip pan?
What chip?
McCain home fries. You just can't help yourself.
Okay. I want you to tell me what these fellas looked like.
Well, the little guy, he was kind of funny looking.
In what way?
I don't know, just funny looking.
Can you be any more specific?
I couldn't really say. He wasn't circumcised.
Was he funny looking apart from that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Frances McDormand and Steve Buscemi star in the Coen brothers' Oscar-winning Fargo, Monday at 10 on 4. A disintegrating marriage is hardly the best asset to have when the weather and the prospects are bleak for a West Indian couple arriving in 1950s England in the first part of The Final Passage.